Hey, Greater Fellowship, Pastor Shears here. I am so excited about this month's anniversary celebration. We are here at Greater Fellowship, and we're getting ready to go into the sanctuary and have some conversations with some people that are influential in my life who've seen me from birth even to now. So I'm excited that we can have these conversations, that you can get a little insight as to who I am as a pastor and what we have been doing to grow in our personal life as pastor and as a husband, as a father. So I'm grateful you can take this journey with us. So stay tuned. The rest of this month, we have some awesome interviews. Let's go and see. Hello, Pastor Shears here, and I'm here with a wonderful, wonderful person that we're going to just have a conversation with. He's going to chat with me about some things. I'm going to chat with him about some things. This is in conjunction with this month's celebration of Lady K and the First Family's 5th pastoral anniversary. We're so excited so far. It's been amazing. You guys have been showing great outpouring of love, and I'm so excited and grateful for everyone's love and cards and texts and emails and all the things you've done. And I wanted to kind of give you an opportunity to peek a little bit more into the present and even past and possible future of your pastor. My pastor has just recently retired from pastoring. How many years?
Will be 40 altogether,
40.
But 28 in the last assignment.
Yes, 28 years. And so I am chomping at the bit to gain some insight and understanding of how I can make it that far. And so it's going to be kind of a peek in over there, peek in over here, but we're going to jump in and just get to talk to you. I'm sitting here with the Reverend Dr. Hoffman Brown III.
Help us, God. Help.
And for those of you that do not know, Pastor Brown is my childhood pastor. I grew up in Smithfield, Virginia, at the Main Street Baptist Church. And as a youth there, he was the first pastor that impressed upon me the words, preached the word to me, and as we'll kind of outline later, made an indelible impression on the reality that would be what we have today. And so I'm grateful he's took some time out of his retirement schedule to hang out with me today. And so Pastor Brown, let's talk a little bit about that. So now that you're in retirement, talk about that transition. How's it feel?
Well, I've been actually planning, George. Well, first of all, let me say congratulations for your 5th anniversary, both to you and to Lady Shears and to the boy Shears and to Greater. This is a great mark, and we congratulate you on this wonderful accomplishment. The 40 years, 5 years in Stanton, Virginia, 5 years in Smithfield, and then balancing it out with 28 years, almost 29 years in Baltimore at the Wayland Baptist Church. It's been a great run. It's been wonderful. God has blessed in ways innumerable. And I'll just say this, I'm still in transition. I'm still kind of feeling my way along, but it is a blessing, particularly given the fact that a lot of African-American pastors don't make it to retirement, either because they've not prepared well for it or because their health does not permit it. But I'm blessing God for the state and position I'm in now. And so I'm taking good advantage of it. And Mrs. Brown, Sister Brown is very happy about it too.
Yeah, so. So those that don't know, he pastored 28 years in Baltimore, Maryland. They moved to kind of the South Carolina area and are relaxing and hanging out there.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that you've done a great job to get to where you are? Most pastors, as you said, do not get a chance to do what you're doing, retire, rest and relax and look back and reflect. Even in that, is there something, one thing that you might say to a pastor that's looking to do that, or something you think you could have done a little bit better in that transition?
Oh man, you don't have enough film in that camera for the length and breadth of that question. But I'll say in short order that when I came into the ministry, by the way, this year, matter of fact, this month, this week, I think, marks my 40th year with my Doctor of Ministry degree. Graduated this year out of Union Seminary and Union Presbyterian Seminary in Richmond. So there's a whole lot of stuff that's merging right now.
I'll be 40 next year.
see, I'm telling you. So it makes all the difference in the world. So that would have made you about 5 or 6 when I got to
Main Street.
To Main Street. Okay. But to answer your question, what I've discovered is that my ideas matter little. Mm-hmm. What I have to do is to make myself available to the Lord, that He might impress upon me what is actually valuable and necessary for the work. And I say that because when I came to serve my first church in Stanton, Virginia, I was idealistic. I had a big S on my chest. I'm thinking I'm going to get in there and provide all this theological information and hit it with my Greek and with my Hebrew and all that kind of stuff. And I found out in short order that the work of pastoral ministry has less to do with what you know than who you know. And again, that's not saying that you don't need training. You do. You need to be prepared for the larger issues related to ministry. But understand this too. For me, seminary did not prepare me to pastor. They prepared me for Sunday morning presentation. I can do well at exegesis. Prepare well sermons and execute those sermons well, but that's probably one iota of what I experienced in terms of my pastoral investment in history. And so, again, if there was one lesson that I could pass on to you is don't trust your natural instincts, trust your spiritual instincts.
Wow.
That served me well. And just to give you an example, and I don't want to focus as much on me as I want on you, but I remember the church that I recently left. I'm serving as pastor emeritus there now. We were having a hard time in terms of the church moving off of center. The church at that time was about 90 years old and had gotten kind of stuck in its routine and in its positions, and there was no new blood coming in, old ideas, young folks were leaving. And I came in like gangbusters thinking that I was going to change things, but what actually happened was I got changed. And I sat back and asked God what He wanted me to do, because I was becoming frustrated, and I'm sure I was frustrating my folks by my attitude and my presentations. And so, now, without boring you with all the details, I remember very clearly I was asking God, how can I serve in a capacity to move well into the people that you want her to be?
Yeah.
And I cried out to the Lord. I mean, it must have been a year and a half, maybe 2 years. This was. Do you remember the BC Sniper?
Yeah.
Remember that? This was during that period of time.
Okay.
I'd been crying out to the Lord probably a year before that, but it was during that time when I was really at my wit's end, and I was frustrated with my folks, and I was ready to leave because I was thinking I'm not being of any benefit here. You know, my skill set was not. It was not doing any good as I saw it. And so the way I usually clear my mind is I usually get my car and drive. And I took a road trip. I left Baltimore and ended up in Columbus, Ohio. I went to visit some relatives and friends along the way and talking. Anyway, on the way coming back, I was coming through West Virginia. Interstate 77 was just being built, so I was coming down 77. I was going to come across 81. God just began George, man, God just began to pour into me the whole scope
Yeah. Yeah.
of what he wanted for the church.
Yeah.
I mean, just the enormity of this was, I stopped along one of those roadside places that they have in West Virginia and got all kind of scraps of paper to try to write down what I was getting.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like he was dictating to me, and I'm just trying to get at least a little. I know shorthand, so I'm trying to write shorthand and try to get all this.
Yes.
And man, it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
I got home.
Wow.
It took me probably 3 days to translate it from the pieces of paper. But what it ended up becoming was a transition of the church from its old form of government and administration to a new form of government and administration, which also included its focus, it's her focus, the church's focus, the manner in which we would get it done, the new structure for leadership, which was probably the biggest change.
Yeah.
And the assignments that we would have in terms of what kind of church we would be.
Yeah.
We became a six-fold church. Eventually it ended up being sevenfold, but I mean, you talk about being impressed with God. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
It was just awesome. It was just awesome.
So what I hear you saying is stealing away has benefits.
Oh my God. If I were to give advice to any new pastor, and you still fit that category, I would say include in your regiment, your yearly regiment retreat. Yeah. And include in your 7-year schedule a sabbatical. Let me tell you why. You don't have an SMHS.
It's an upgraded fellowship.
I'll tell you, and see, I wish somebody had told me this
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
first couple of years.
Yeah.
You're a great man. You're doing a great job. But the fact of the matter is, you're human.
Yes.
And you wear down, and you get overwhelmed, and you get overwrought sometimes.
Overweight.
All of us do that. But that's sometimes part of the manifestation.
Yes.
We when I first moved to Baltimore, man, I ended up gaining about 40 pounds when I went there.
Wow.
from Smithfield. But a part of that was because I didn't know how to siphon that energy so that it would work for me.
Yeah.
So I just heard on a news report today, pastor talking about the stuff that's going on down in that went on with George Floyd and all of that. And his words were, we need to start changing now from pain to power. And I'm saying the same thing in terms of the ministry of the church. Use use your gifting and what you're used to, but let that translate into something that's really going to be a benefit to you in terms of the work of the church and the benefit to your people. Mm-hmm. A lot of times you can't get that when you're in your daily routine.
Right.
So you need to factor into your annual routine a retreat for your family, for you and the missus, and for you by yourself. 3 separate occasions.
Yeah.
You also need to factor in time. According to my reading of what the word says about tithing, every day you owe God 2 hours and 40 minutes.
My Lord.
And so I don't mean in your devotion becoming your preparation for Sunday morning.
Yeah.
That's just time that you spend with God.
Wow.
And so if that be the case, there needs to be, and you and I have not talked about what your structure looks like, but there really needs to be a refocusing and a centering on the things that become godly.
Yes.
Because you get away from it, man. And it's easy to do. And I don't care how faithful you are, you can find yourself struggling because the more you're becoming pastor, the less you're becoming godly.
Wow. Oh.
I'm guilty.
Yeah.
I'm guilty.
Guilty. Yeah.
And I had to move back into to right positioning with God.
Tithing the day. I've never heard it like that before, but it brings about a great weight of intentionality
Yes, sir.
with
Yes, sir.
your time and your
Yes, sir.
step.
And it doesn't necessarily mean simply being in front of the Bible and praying.
Sure.
It sometimes this means quietly meditating.
Sure. Yeah.
Sometimes it means taking a walk around the lake. Sometimes it means just quiet time with you and the missus, getting away and just enjoying a dinner together.
Sure.
The meditation part has to deal with you're eliminating outside influences and you're focusing on where you are with
Yes.
God.
I like that. Eliminating outside influences and focusing in on God. We have talked when we reconnected. I pastored down in South Carolina, and a pastor friend of yours connected us.
Yes.
Pastor Johnson, Pastor Anthony Johnston, my good friend. He connected us, and we connected, and from that moment, we connected, and I've told you, and I knew that you were, and I never had a mentor or anybody whom I felt I should point my life towards, my attention towards, to pour into me. And I asked you, would you do that? And you graciously accepted. And we don't talk that often, but when we do talk, it is an outpouring. And
Both ways, though. Both ways.
I guess you learn what not to do for me.
No. You're a great inspiration to me in terms of what contemporary pastors need to know. Sure.
And I'm grateful, and I'm glad that camaraderie is there. And it has helped me, and I want to thank you publicly for just those times where those conversations turned my direction or calibrated my compass to be in a direction that aligned with the Spirit, and it helped me understand the necessary reality that I don't know all the answers, and I don't have all the answers. And to the point that you made earlier, that the natural inclinations that I have can actually lead me in the wrong direction. The natural inclinations that I have may take me to the wrong direction. And having checks and balances and all those things, appreciate all those things you've told me over the years. I've been at Greater Fellowship for 5 years, grateful for that. The church has been in existence for 28 years. I'm the third pastor of the church, rich history with both pastors. They're still with us on this side of the Jordan. The church loves them. There's no love lost between any of us. And the church has been a great, great thing. For me, as the pastor at the 5-year mark, what do I have to look forward to? Or what should I be navigating towards as a 5-year pastor?
Well, if I might, let me premise what I'm going to respond to that by saying this. I would have never, and when I was serving as your pastor, you were 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there.
Yes.
I would have never suspected that you would have become a pastor. I would have. I'm telling you, and it was not because you.
Tell me why? Because I was bad, right?
No. You were precocious.
That's a big word for bad. Right?
No.
That's another word for mischievous.
You had your share of challenges. You
Yeah,
had your share of
sure.
But two things. First of all, you came from good stock.
Yes.
You know, your grandmother was just an awesome lady. Your dad was a wonderful person. Your mom was just an awesome woman of God. I just love that you came from people that love the Lord and were excited about that. But first of all, I don't think I ever saw you, except maybe once, without a suit on, suit and tie.
Wow.
And you always had questions.
Wow.
You always had questions. You wanted to know about why this was and how this worked and where we wanted. I mean, there was. If George Shears was around, you could expect there was going to be a grand inquisition. You just knew that. Also, you were pushing up on my wife, man.
What?
Yeah, 6 years old. You always say, you don't remember sitting next to her every Sunday morning?
I plead the fifth. I'm not going to.
Oh man, yeah, you sat on the same row every, and then the other kids got jealous.
Yeah.
And so she sat all of you all besides her on her left side, and then y'all started picking at each other. So she had to set you on the other side of her.
Oh God.
For her.
Oh goodness.
But anyway, it was. Oh, and the one other occasion that I remember was Sister Brown was able to, and I don't know how she did it, worked her magic, but she was able to get a trip to Disney World.
I remember that.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And that was awesome. What was funny about that was that people thought it was hype and they didn't think it was real.
Yeah.
She got us. I mean, this was amazing. It didn't matter what size your family was, but you just had to get it in early. You could have a family up to 7 or so. The whole trip ended up costing somewhere around $600 per family. You know, and then when folks realized it was true and it wasn't a sham, they wanted to get in, but it was too late by that time. So they got mad at her and got mad at me for this reason. But you kids didn't know that at the time.
We didn't know. I had a good time. I'll tell you what, that Florida trip was, as I think back on it, it was a good chance to see. I have a picture in my mom's photo album, and I'll try to find it. It's a picture of a bunch of us youth were with you and Goofy.
Really?
Yeah. It's a little breakfast
Okay.
that we were in, and you were just laughing, and we were all just smiling. And that picture, it just kind of seared in my soul about the experience that a pastor can give to its people or her people. We had a good time, and I had a good time with my pastor.
Amen.
And it was at that time I didn't realize it. I didn't look back. I didn't realize it. That was an impression on me that really never left. One of the things I really struggled with my calling, and I've always was a jokester, funny guy, fun life of the party, fun stuff, you know. But I tried to figure out how do I create a ministry of my personality and my calling. And simply that picture, just kind of us having fun in Florida, gave me a little bit of reassurance that I could be me and be called at the same time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, unfortunately for me, and I'll say this, I don't have good recall. I don't remember a whole lot that even last week. I mean, I'm getting to the point where, you know, somebody has to remind me to be able to get up and brush my teeth.
Yeah.
But I can remember the occasion, but I don't remember that specific event. And I was asking Jackie in preparation for this interview. I was asking her about some things she remembered, and she's the one that actually reminded me. For instance, when we went to Florida. I didn't even remember that we went to Florida. That's how bad it is.
Wow.
But you're right. It was that these kinds of things came out of my personality about the wholesome, good, valuable things that go along with the church being the church, being the representative of God in this earth realm.
Yeah.
You said something to me, I think, not the first time we met up, because the first time I saw you was in Hampton for Hampton's Ministers
right.
Conference. But you said something to me that still impressed me. You said this, that you didn't remember none of the sermons that I preached, but you remembered how I acted.
That's right.
And that was valuable to me.
Yeah.
That was valuable to me. First of all, I wasn't preaching like nothing back then anyway.
I remember, so you like it.
Yeah, it was. I finally got to the point as I retired of really loving preaching, but back then I was using too many big words and nobody understood anything I was saying, including probably myself. I don't know that, but
Let's throw this in here.
it seemed to work.
Yeah.
It was hermeneutically correct. I mean, exegetically, it was correct, but it just wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't moving any mountains, you know. Yeah. But to answer your question, your 5th year here, man, is still some challenges in terms of learning the cycle of the congregation and the church and finding out your influences there. I would dare say that this is a primary time for you to really start, if you haven't done it already, start pouring into your folks some of where you see the church moving to. I would, in my own mind, I usually have to have after having said everything I'd said before, I usually have a goal. And I usually have an annual goal, biannual goal. I have a 5-year plan, I have a 10-year plan. And so if you work your way back from, if you want, for instance, a membership of 500 in 5 years, if that's a goal, it doesn't happen for everybody, or it's not necessary for everybody, but if that's your goal, then the preparation has to start now. The kinds of things that are necessary, for your folks to be invested in, sure, is now. And so the 5th year is a good, I like the word you say, calibration of where you are with your people, because they've seen you enough to know who you are. They've made their decisions about whether or not they like you. They're still coming. Well, I'm sure they do. You're a likable brother. But they've sat on your preaching and your teaching, and they've not left. And from what I hear, there's been an encouragement. I follow you in your letters, and Jackie and I tune in on Sunday mornings. She more than I do, because most of the time I'm still asleep when you're standing up.
The beauty of retirement.
Oh, come on now. I'm going to shout up in here in just a minute. But, I said before, with regards to the direction of the church, don't trust your instincts, trust what the Spirit of God has given you.
Yes.
But with regards to its execution, yes, trust your gifts. Trust your gifts, your interests. Trust the value of your engagement with your folks. I know my pastor, when I was in Baltimore, he was your rigorous traditional pastor that I never saw him without a suit and tie on, ever. He was always that man behind the pulpit. I never had a sense of his humanity. I never had a sense of his likes and dislikes. And so as a result, as I became an adult and became a pastor, I respected his office, but I really didn't have anything in common with where he was. Right. Just because, again, I couldn't relate. There was not a whole lot. I mean, we both shared the same vocation, but we didn't share the same approach to that vocation. Yeah. I would dare say with where you are that, you start putting it out into the atmosphere, your desires for your folk. Yeah. What I'm saying about the church is the same thing I'm saying about your family. You do the same thing in terms of the family. Sure. Setting some marks about where you want to go. Your 2 wonderful sons, they're trusting you to help shape what their future is going to look like. Right. And if you don't give them some markings, yes, by which I'm expecting you by the time you're 8 to do this. Those kinds of things. Then what ends up happening is they never have any sense of their own destination. Wow. Or how to get there.
Yeah. And that's same for me as well.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. One of the things that I will say, again, you were, as a youth, you were a part of the daycare center that we had over there. And again, even though I did not ever see you as a pastor, but I don't know if I shared with you how shocked I was when I got the phone call to find out that I was glorifying God, but to find out that you were going to be a pastor, because I'm thinking either you're going to become a medical doctor or a criminal thief. Yeah. That's what? That's how, that's how strong your personality was.
Wow. I was going to be a dentist.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that happened, every time I came over to check on the daycare over there, didn't matter what time it was, whether it was you all were resting, whatever, you got up and ran over there to me. You can't grab me, Yeah. And then George, boom, get back to where you're supposed to be. Yeah. Didn't make any difference. Yeah. Didn't make any difference. You had it set in your mind that you wanted to greet your pastor. Yeah. And that made me feel good, but it also showed some resolve in terms of your thinking about what was important and what was not important. And that same kind, that you ought not to ever lose that centering part of who you are. Sure. You're a go-getter. Yeah. You don't sit on tradition. You don't have to wait on you don't have to wait on what has been done historically in order to have some sense of where you need to go in terms of your contemporary challenges and ministries.
Absolutely.
And that's a valuable talent and skill.
I didn't realize that as I'm listening to you and I'm reflecting over my own personal inner thoughts and feelings as I was growing up, you were a big person in my life when it came to just my pastor. Like, you were always dapper, you always dressed nice.
Thank you, sir.
You just always, you always presented, you came intentionally. Every time I saw you, it seemed as if you were in the room intentionally. And to go back to what you were talking about, when never remembering any of your sermons, but remembering your character and the person you were. When I got my call, I was just as shocked as you when you heard about me. When I got my call, I was like, "What? This is not making any sense." But received it, accepted it, and jumped full head on into it.
Bless you, God.
And then I said to myself, "Wow, who am I going to be?" And immediately I started going back through the corridors of my mind and remembering who I could copy until I figured out how to be myself. And I landed on you. Landed on you because it was the only thing that was had more matter in it in my psyche about impressions and experience and just carrying yourself. And so looking back through my life, I was like, oh, I gotta be like Hoffman Brown. He's the third, I'm the third.
Exactly.
He has that strong name, I have a strong name. Like, this is, and it literally was for me at the beginning of my ministry. I was like, okay. But it was like, I never intended to do this. So when when you're watching something to copy it, you pay attentive. You're very attentive, intentional attention to it. But I was just going through the motions in life, and so I say all that to say, I picked up all of the residue that I could to create a Frankenstein-esque preacher.
No, anything but that. You're a strong example.
Yeah, but again, to move forward, I moved from that to come into my own self. I'll say this, switching just a little bit, and I'll be very transparent about this. As I'm sitting in the 5th year of my time here at Greater Fellowship, as I look back over the 5 years, I am very happy with the connections I've made, the people that have joined the church, the relationships I've built, even the headway we've made as under my tutelage and leadership at the church. But I am also disappointed because I'm here, and I'll be very transparent, I got here without a goal. I'm here at 5 years, and I have nothing to look back and say, I accomplished this, I accomplished that, I did this, I didn't do this. Does that make sense? And so you said it. We never talked about it, but you're saying have a 5-year goal. I literally just sat down to write my 5-year goals for my family and for the church. We never talked about that, and I know that's why you're my mentor. But it's this idea of I don't want to go another 5 years and get to it and look back and be like, oh, well, I did, and start picking out what I did. Versus knowing I accomplished A, B, C, D.
And as you said, you use the word intentional. I think there's. Listen, let me share this with you that I think may be anathema to a lot of pastors and a lot of churches, and that is this. And part of this was my discussion with the young brother that followed me at Wayland Church. And by the way, I should say with that, this was the first peaceful transition that has happened to that church in its 105 years. So we're blessing God for that. I didn't die, didn't get put out, didn't get run out, I didn't steal any money. So, we were able to be a part. Hallelujah. Can I shout?
For the little thing.
Amen.
Yeah.
But part of what I recognized in terms of the being able to measure out the work was that I didn't bring the vision to Wayland Church. The vision was in the house already. It was just on my assignment of what I had to accomplish, and thereby God revealing to me what I was supposed to be doing while I was there. So it's not an either or, I think it's a both and. That I think God uses your desires, I think he uses your inklings, I think he uses your heart's measures for what you want to be grafted into the larger work of being the church. King David wanted to build the temple.
Yeah.
But God said no. You know, I'm doing a series right now. Even though I'm no longer a pastor, I'm still preaching and still doing some things. Wow. But I'm doing a series right now on Paul's, the book of Acts in the first century church. And it was interesting that Paul and his work was, when he and Barnabas were going out after he and Barnabas separated, he and Silas got together. Everywhere he wanted to go, God told him no. Now, fortunately, he did not take that as a rejection of himself, but learned how to understand that the process is not necessarily what you feel or what you sense.
Yeah.
Again, that can be elusive. It can mislead you. Yeah. What I've discovered about too many pastors and too many churches is that we measure our ministry on emotions and feelings rather than on faith.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
and so you can't trust that. I might like you today, but not like you tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, there's an inconsistency in terms of the emotions that end up becoming transitory. You know, again, when I first went to Wayland, the same people that fought against me when I went to Wayland then were my greatest supporters when I was leaving.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so you can't measure your goals and those things, your goals and you know, it's a series of things, but you have goals and then you have intermediate goals and you have, you know, things that set up to where you like to be. You cannot measure those things based upon likes or dislikes. You really have to be in tune to where you hearing the voice of God, but also being able to trust God for those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can say without a doubt, even with the conversations that we've had prior to this, that some of where you've been, you've had an ear to hear, but you also had a reservation about whether or not that would be accepted in the church. And
Yeah.
and if I could give you some Hoffman Brown advice, and that is that you trust God's voice, that voice that you've come to love and appreciate, because sometimes it will go against the grain of your people.
Yeah.
They don't even know that they need it, and they will fight against it. My folks, this transition I told you about with the polity, we had to change that. Man, and by the way, it didn't just happen. I had to teach it 3 years before it actually became law in the church. But after the fact, they loved it. Getting up to the fact, you know, you would have thought I was poisoning their porridge.
Yeah.
You know, they just thought I was running amok and you know, I heard all kinds of things. You're just trying to be a bishop. No, I'm not trying to be a bishop. I'm already a bishop according to the Bible. I'm trying to hear God's word. Yeah, exactly.
And what I hear you saying is that people will push back on change until they realize it's good.
And it's okay. And it's okay for the pushback too, by the way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay. I don't see you doing this anyway, but I've seen too many pastors who take it personally.
Yes. I don't.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't vote what I want, then I'm going to hate you for the rest of my day. Well, no, people. You know, that's the beauty of being a Baptist. You have a variety of approaches and even theological positions concerning the work of the kingdom of God, and it doesn't mean we become mortal enemies.
That's right.
You know, matter of fact, I will tell you this. I brought into the administration of my last church people who opposed me. Now, now they couldn't do it disrespectfully.
Sure.
But people who opposed me, I brought them to the front of the line to help me figure out how to measure this thing out.
Wow.
Because see, what I knew of my own skill set is this: I paint with broad brushes.
Right.
I don't do the details.
Wow.
I can tell you how to
That's
get
me all day.
Yeah, well, you know, so
Yeah.
you need those people with that skill set.
That's right. That's
And
right.
that's what I'm saying. If you can learn how, let me just give you this, and then I'm gonna start talking because you got me too excited out here, brother.
Go. You have it.
I had a deacon at I'll call his name Lawrence Campbell, great brother. Hard-headed. Both of us in Pittsburgh, by the way, in the same community. I didn't know him there, but
Yeah.
you know, he didn't like my approach to ministry. I wasn't sainted enough, or I don't know, Baptist enough. I don't know, I don't know what it was. Even though he was on a pulpit search committee. So anyway, he and I came to loggerheads a couple of times in my first 5, 6, 7 years there. He ended up becoming chair of the deacons ministry at some point, but he was still doing what I thought was things that were not respectful or undermining the kind of processes that I thought important. Because one of the things I still believe is this: we ought to have integrity in whatever we do, and I ought to be able to look you in the eye whenever I meet you, and to be able to tell you why I did what I did. Right. And I didn't believe that he was always doing that. Sure. Now again, if that were the case, that's on him, and he has to deal with that. But he and I had a conversation concerning him becoming chair of the deacons ministry, and at the same time we were working on a housing project, by the way, $15 million housing project. Wow. Which is, by the way, up and running. It's a 90-unit apartment complex called Whaling Village, and it's a blessing God has used it. But he was in charge of that. Now I told him this. I'm revealing this for the first time to your folks. I told him this. I said, I have the power in my office to stop that from working. If not forever, for right now, while I'm here, if I chose to do that. And I said, now, if you can't get your program together in terms of how we will work together, then I'm going to do that. And you can be assured that I will make sure that nothing goes forward with that with regards to the church. But if you can learn how to at least present yourself in a way that's respectful of my office, then we might have something here.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not asking you to like me, because I said right now I don't like you.
Wow.
but we ought to still be able to work together. Right. Shook hands on it. Man, listen, they're working on their second apartment complex now.
Wow.
That's the kind of energy that comes out of it. Sure. So again, I didn't need folks to like me in order for us to work together. I need people who are akin to painting with those detailed brushes, those small brushes that get all the specifics in it, because I don't do that. Right. When I used to build model cars, be beautiful cars, they're all painted up and everything, but if you open the hood, I never had a motor in there, because I didn't feel like I didn't want to read the instructions. Yeah. I didn't want to deal with the details.
You wanted the outside.
The outside was fine, buddy.
That's but I struggle with that. We got to wrap this up.
Yeah,
we can talk all
I got you.
But that's what I struggle with. Like, I'm a broad stroke kind of guy. I can give you a product. I just need somebody to help me give me the process. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm after. Hey, use your skills, gifts, talents, and acumen, and knock it out. So, you blessed me with that, because I thought I was the only one in the world.
Ask God if you don't have it here already, and you probably do. You may have it among your leadership already, or whatever the case. But generally speaking, I believe this: God has everything in the house that He needs, and if it's not in the house, He'll send it soon. That's right. All right. Because of that, again, it kept me out of a lot of trouble. Because I sometimes I'll run into a burning house and not have any protection on me. That's sure. And that may be noble, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Right. Part of the work that you have, and I can sense even now that Greater has some real cool stuff that God is setting you all up to do. Some major kinds of things going on, and I'm sensing in the spirit realm right now. Some of this has to do with missions. I don't get all that, and I got some connections for you if this is the case where God is sending you. But some stuff that you all are doing that's not church as usual. That that if you trust God enough to send you some folks that will share with you out of your vision,
Yeah.
out of, not I should say out of vision God has given you for your work at this time, God will bless that, man, and he'll multiply it.
Wow.
Because if it had been up to me, I'm telling you, again, folks would have sat in those model cars, it wouldn't have gone nowhere. No?
Right. Well, Pastor, you've helped me tremendously today.
Good hour.
You have tapped into the spiritual world, you tapped into the physical world,
Bless you.
and you've tapped into the community here. And I'm grateful to God that you were able to spend just a few
Appreciate
minutes
you,
of your
man.
time with me today.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
To
Thank
you and to Greater. God bless you.
Greater Fellowship, thank you for paying attention, for just two preachers talking, mentor to mentee, and I'm grateful to God. I'm looking forward to a great future with us together. I love you. Peace and blessings.